Hello and welcome to the Final Bell. It's great to have you with us for another week. Meg McDonald is with me. Hello, Meg.
Hey, Lingy. Oh, we're up and about, aren't we?
Yes, we are. A win is on the board. A win is on the board against the Tigers at a packed GMHBA Stadium Saturday night. So we're all happy. You're into pre-season though. Are you?
Yeah.
What, day number 2 of pre-season officially?
Day 2. Officially day 2. We just had a inside sort of testing yesterday, so just had to get the quads
okay.
out. And look, we don't have the results yet, but when I said how strong was I, they were like. When I said how fast was I, they were like, no, so it was a good day. I'm looking forward to touching some footies later on. But actually, I just right off the top, I'd like to address a question that I've been fielding ever since the weekend. I did not wear I spoke about wearing a jumper for the last 4 losses. I did not wear it on the weekend.
You didn't wear
so
it.
So you are welcome. But
well
now
done.
I've got this. I really like the jumper, but oh boy.
It's not a match day one for you to wear anymore, I don't think, Meg. And one person who will be very, very happy that you're no longer wearing that jumper is Chris Scott, the coach of the Cats. He's going to join us in the second segment. It'll be great to have a chat with him, in particular to pump up and congratulate him for being inducted into the Cats Hall of Fame. Which
How are you going with this? Because I feel like you're the big ticket item on this night. Every time we get you to speak about it, you're going to... No, it's good.
Surely, I know we haven't known each other long, Meg, but you'll understand I do not like talking about myself.
Yeah. I don't know that Scotty does either, so we'll see how we go.
You might have to force a question out of both of us. Maybe I'll talk about him.
Yeah, all right, deal.
Yeah. Let's do that. He can talk about me a little bit. We will be talking to Chris Scott. We will get to your questions a bit later on, but let's dive straight into the game. A game must win occasionally comes up, but after 4 losses in a row, games start becoming a bit of a must win.
Yeah.
And let's say in the first half it wasn't perfect. I think most Geelong fans and certainly our listeners would agree with that. It was looking a little worrying. But then the team got rolling. Ollie Dempsey, outstanding. I thought Jack Bowes was superb. Maxie Holmes, good again. Mitch Duncan, I thought was terrific with that leadership. Got rolling, got the win. How do you see it? Is it we did not play well and lucky to get the win? Or we fought through really well and we got the win we needed?
Yeah, more the latter. I was having this conversation recently about how it's important to remind ourselves conversation with Nina Morrison, so shout out Nines, no, she's a listener, that when you're 4 goals with momentum, the answer to being 4 goals down is not immediate. We've got to kick 4 goals straight away. Sometimes you've got to wrestle things back and slowly turn the tide, and I think that can be true of your form generally. So, yeah, we haven't been playing our best. Did we play our best on the weekend? No, but we're sitting in third on the ladder. You take the win, and I think we can't expect the best straight away. It's going to take some time to work towards that, and I think this was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and speaking of reminding things, and I had to remind myself of this, and I've done it from time to time, either in my commentary role or just in my footy fan role, is where I'm sitting, and I was there with my kids and had my sister there and her kids. We're on the second tier, Brownlow stand just here. It's fair to say there's a lot of space from where I'm sitting, and football looks rather simple from up there.
Oh my gosh, I've got a question on this. Continue.
Yeah, and it's that reminder to myself that, sitting up there, I can see where this ball should go, and a perfect skill should nail it there, run past, and out we go. This is fantastic. Richmond are sitting 17th on the ladder. We should be smacking them. It's AFL football. The very best players are playing. Even the teams in 17th, 18th on the ladder are highly talented, highly trained, elite athletes, really, really good footballers.
Pride in their performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the respect for the game needs to be there, that it is so hard to get a win in the AFL. You want to ask North Melbourne how hard it is to just grab that win. So that reminder to myself that, hang on, we're still playing a team who is full of very good footballers. You don't just break a team 5 minutes into the first quarter and now it's junior footy and we're going to be 150-0.
Yeah.
This is AFL football. So you're right. It wasn't going to plan and it wasn't a fluent game and at times we weren't playing at our best, but the fact we worked through it and some of the players who stood up were younger players who said, hang on, this is just slipping a little bit. Let's find a way to kick a goal, or let's win that contested ball, or let's shut down that attacking play for the Tigers and got the game back under control. Once I'd reminded myself, I walked out of here a lot more positive about, okay, that's a step forward for us.
Yeah, you spoke before about simplicity, and that's what I found myself wondering. I'm thinking, the knock on the lower teams on the ladder is that surely you can just bring effort no matter what. And of course that is system based as well. But that's what they did. They brought the pressure in. Is, in your opinion, like, how simple or how complicated is football? Because Richmond bring fantastic pressure the first 2 quarters. We find it harder. We match that pressure and tip it back in our favour in the second half, win that contested ball, and the game opens up.
Yeah, I think it is so absolutely with you that effort non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more to that. There's so many more layers to it. If through that effort and you just grind and fight and scrap to get the ball back and contest, and then finally you get someone out with a little bit of time and space and that kick just doesn't quite hit a target, all that effort becomes wasted if it's turned over. But also the probably 5 other decisions that have been made off the back of that player having time and space to then run hard forward. They're now attacking for the second or third possession down the chain, and it's turned over immediately and it's going back the other way. Well, they're completely out of position and can no longer bring effort. And also, they've used petrol. They've used their energy up, running to attack and doing the right thing. They now have less of it, and so they can't get back and defend. So therefore, then it looks like effort's dropping.
Yeah, or it looks like they're outnumbering us running forwards, and we're not running defensively hard. It's like, as you say, I was up near the half forward line ready to kick a goal.
Yeah, and it works both ways, because I don't think for a second that especially late in the game when Geelong had total control of the game, that Richmond's effort dropped off.
Yeah.
I think their effort was still there, but Geelong had just got on top of them, and their skill execution under pressure was better, and maybe a little mistake here from Richmond, and a younger player might have just made a little error. So their effort wasn't dropping, but you still need skill execution and great decision-making combined with that effort to get a really good performance. It's not as simple as, bring the effort and you'll be right. It's too good a game. You've got too many incredible players all bringing a level of effort to it just be effort-based.
So should we talk about those players then? How good was insert player Jack Bowes?
Jack Bowes. I'd love to start there, because I think talk about the footy world just being slow to understand how important a player is and how good he's been. I think most people's perception outside the football club would be that Jack Bowes was a neat ball user off half back, maybe for Suns time, and then a little bit with the Cats. Oh yeah, he's a nice kick. Is he wing half back? His move to inside mid has shown he has got so many good elements to his game. Inside, hard, contested ball work, but then he is a beautiful user on the outside and can get to the outside.
Yeah, and he finished one himself, didn't he? Yes, kicked a goal. Yeah. I noticed, I think it was last night, I was watching some of the footy shows, and they were doing the holding the ball discussion. And can you still fight the tackle? Well, I think he showed, particularly in a few passages, that you absolutely can. And as you say, he got it from inside to out, number of goal and score assists, and really, if that's the new benchmark for him, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is awesome. And you throw in, so Ollie Dempsey, brilliant, 3 goals, only 27 touches. Jack Bowes, who I still class as a younger player, certainly with his time at the Cats. Max Holmes, Tanner Bruin, that youth, I thought, had fantastic nights. Yeah. But then I also do mention 2 players here, and I probably shouldn't just single out 2, but Tom Atkins and Mitch Duncan.
Yeah, nice.
With how hard Tom Atkins was, and they're just the grunt to go, come on, guys. Talk about, he isn't just all that effort, by the way, as well, because he's so clean, so clever with everything he does. But part of it was just his gritting of the teeth and saying, come on, we need to be better at this. And then Mitch, even that mark that he took, where that was so brave. Having those experienced players complement the young enthusiasm and quality and skill and talent of those younger guys going, okay, together we're going to get through this.
Yeah, I really liked the way Tom Atkins and Tanner Bruin shaped and reshaped around the contest. I think they're sort of finding their groove together well, and I was lucky enough to sit next to Tom Atkins' parents for the whole game, so... Shout out to them.
I
Mike,
do.
I believe.
Mick, yeah,
Mick?
I know Mick well. Mick very, very well. What's he like as a viewer, by
Oh my
the way?
gosh. So I haven't said this to Tom, but he was just commentating the whole, but he's very fair. I noted how, if Richmond did something well, that was commented on a lot. The only semi-spray that he gave.
Was to Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it was.
So Tom takes that mark. He's like 35 out, 40 out.
Oh, and gave the handball?
He goes, he goes, come on, take some responsibility and give the goal. And then I've looked around in the time I've looked to look at him. He's gone to, I think he tried to give it and then got called back and then he still gave it. See?
So just for our wonderful listeners, so Mick, Tom's dad, very, very good local footballer, very good. Intense as a local footballer is a word I would use to describe him, and Mick wouldn't mind me saying intense. Very passionate, very competitive. Yeah. Lots of premierships at North Shore, but then went to Joey's as a playing coach as well, grand finals. Can't help himself as far as how competitive.
It was the best.
Because I played the cricket team I played with for a number of years, cricket with him, and now this is very social one-day cricket. Mick still wanted to win. Still had it deep inside him. Yeah. A wonderful person, a terrific person, Mick, but plays for keeps, like Tom does, which I love. Each week we talk about the Bendigo Banks Meet the Moment, the nominees. What are we thinking this week, Meg? I know it'll be up on the social media, on the website. It is now. Fantastic. We got the Tommy Hawkins one in there.
Yes, we do. A little tackle set up for Dempsey's first goal.
Yeah.
Nothing better, is there? I mean... Okay, maybe better is first goal of the game, little Tom Stewart intercept, Toby Colmer hands to Tanner, Hawk slots one from directly in front. That was mwah, but second to that, and more of a 1%er is a tackle that leads to a goal.
What about only because I remember this, I was actually talking to my kids about the Brad Close's ability to read the cues of the kicker and just eyes of intercept, bang, Tom Hawkins' goal? Yeah, Tom Hawkins' goal. I love that attention to detail of just someone like Brad Close. He never switches off, and just his eyes were always like reading the cue. Okay, now I go. Yeah, love that. Love that.
And I always think, I was commenting to me, how good he is over his head. Not that was a massive contested grab, but he's so clean for a smaller guy. He's so strong above his shoulders, and a nice finish from Hawk on that one as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Tight angle.
Jump on, you can vote for that one on the Bendigo Banks Meet the Moment, as we love to do every single week. Meg, we get the win.
Yep.
The bye is around the corner, but there's a very big hurdle before the bye. That is the Sydney Swans, top of the ladder. They have just coming off the bye themselves, I believe. Up at the SCG, 3:20 Sunday afternoon. Mark Blitzarves will be available post-suspension, so will Jai Clark. So obviously a bit around selection. Maybe if we could
everyone's playing again.
I know Chris Scott's about to come in. We're going to have a chat with him. But just casting your eyes forward for a second to the Sydney Swans. Obviously a very good midfield. A lot's been spoken about quite rightly around Chad Warner and Isaac Heaney and Errol Goulden, and a terrific team and a really quality football club. Do you see Blitz comes back in? Jai Clark probably deserves his spot back, but as a younger player, maybe. What sort of happens with the group after they get the win?
This is ultimately a question without notice.
Yeah, it certainly is, Meg.
I don't know. Who came in for them? Oh, Mark
O'Connor did.
And who else?
Gary Rowan.
As the sub. Gary has to. I'm loving Gary's work with them. I think he's just adding so many different dimensions and his speed. So...
it becomes
you sound like you might know. That was such a cop-out from me, but I don't. Is smaller ground, rounder ground?
It is a smaller ground. Certainly a shorter ground, but...
Do you need Mark O'Connor to go with some of their mids?
Oh, you'd love it up your sleeve. Yeah. I think that ability to have that, just the Warner and Heaney run and explosion through the middle and their ball use. I think if you could blunt that a little bit, I mean, obviously you're not going to tag all three of Goulden, Warner, Heaney, but just one who has 18 to 20 touches and doesn't kick a goal in a game as opposed to 28 touches and 2 goals. It just takes the edge off what they're trying to do. So I think having that up your sleeve's really important. But
still go tall? Would you say, if you agree with that proposition, is that...
Yeah,
Anyway, thanks, listeners.
that's a good question. So it would be Shannon Neal, Toby Conway, Blitz.
I don't know
Blitz
if
coming
Reece might
back
be
in.
available.
Reece might be available. Yeah, I think you could probably go one shorter with their run. They don't have as many threatening tools, the Swans. Mind you could flip it the other way. They are shortish in the back line.
Yeah.
Dane Rampy
Expose them.
and Malikan aren't super tall key defenders, so maybe you could stretch them a little bit. If Shannon Neal and Hawke and Jez are all there, does that bring a threat? It's the old question. If they're marking it, it's a
Yeah.
great move. If they're not marking it, do they become too slow in there? So that's
why you got the
always the
sub.
balance.
Yeah.
And Gary Rowan as the sub's been a
And
really
we've got
good one.
we'll have to see. I think I'm sure he's probably a test. I don't know this for sure, but Ollie Henry was
Yes,
subbed out. So
subbed
he's
out. As we always say, check the health update.
check the health update. But it's coming out today. The only reason I mention it is because we need to fit some people into the team.
Yes, we do.
But Ollie's been doing very well.
He has definitely. So we've brought in a few people. We haven't put anyone out, but that's what we love to do on the podcast. That's the coach's job. And the coach is about to join us. I don't know if I'll ask him about it though. I won't ask him about selection.
I wonder if do I reckon? No, don't ask him about selection. One question for you. We spoke about having it over. I remember last year talking about having it over the Swans. Now they are flying. Haven't lost to them since before the premiership.
Yeah, the buddy game.
The buddy game. There was a terrible draw last year.
That's
that was
right.
just
That's
so
right.
psychologically how we placed. If they're thinking, oh, they're the best in the comp at the moment. Our best can take it to anyone.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Like I always loved, but this was my mindset of I love the challenge. I want to take down a scalp. It's funny. Some of my most enjoyable years were when we were good, but we were hunting.
Yeah, love that.
You know, and it'll be great to talk with Scotty around 2011 a little bit, but Collingwood were the best team.
Yeah.
And they had won the premiership. They were going to win the next couple, really, because they were flying. They were a young premiership team. I love that feeling of hunting them down. So that mindset of right now the Swans are just playing brilliant football and fresh, and they're a wonderful team. When I work on their games and as a footy fan, I love the way they play.
Errol, stop it.
Yeah. So
No, actually stop it this weekend.
Yeah. The challenge of taking that down, though, I think it was always really exciting as a player. So hopefully that's the way the Cats see it. We better take a break because Chris Scott, the senior coach of the Cats, is going to join us next.
Hi Cats fans, it's Joel Selwood here. Tickets are now on sale for the Geelong Cats Hall of Fame dinner. Join the club for an evening of celebration as Cameron Ling enters his name into history as the newest club legend. The evening will also see new Hall of Fame inductees and life members recognised. Head to the Geelong Cats website and check out the events page to book your tickets now.
Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell. As promised, we do have a special guest this week, the senior coach of the Cats, Chris Scott, is with us. Scotty, great to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too as well. Meg, Lingy.
We are going to talk hopefully all things footy with you, but we are excited to talk off the top. And one of the main reasons we've got you on about the upcoming Hall of Fame dinner that is coming up at the Cats June 22nd. Tickets are still available for those who are keen to come along. You are going to be inducted into the Geelong Cats Hall of Fame. Congratulations, first of all, along with Harry Taylor and Travis Varco. I suppose your mind is always on now and the future and everything like that. Have you had a moment to go, oh, actually, that's pretty cool. That's a nice little bit of a chance to reflect?
I have actually, Lingy. You're right. I tend to look forward, and these sort of things are not things I've ever focused on, even as a player. But it did give me a bit of a moment where I was able to think just about the opportunity that I was given to come to the Cats. I was very young. I was about your age, I reckon. No, I was a little bit older than you. But I was 34 when I started, and that's rare. It's even rarer to come to an organisation that was in really good shape. Normally when a club needs a new coach, things are falling apart a bit, and that wasn't the case at the Cats at all. And so I've just been really grateful for the opportunity that I've been given over a long period of time. And I think more than anything else, I feel like it's a reflection of longevity, and that longevity is a product of the support that I was provided with, and that continues to this day. So I think they're the things that I think of the most on occasions like this.
Now, I'm going to force you to speak about each other briefly and right off the top, but this gentleman to our right's becoming a legend on the same night. You shared a year together as captain and coach. If I could get just a word or two on each other and what it will mean come June 22nd.
Well, can I start
You
then?
can start.
No, I do. It's funny. I do remember when I retired, Meg. I think it was the best and fairest. I made a speech. I said, no regrets about my career. I gave absolutely everything I could and pushed my body as far as I could. The only tiny regret, I know that sounds weird when I say no regrets, but the only tiny regret was the fact I only got to have a year with Scotty. I would have loved more time. I consider myself, talk about being fortunate, which you just referred to there, how incredibly lucky I was to have experienced two, and I'm going to embarrass you here, two truly great coaches in Mark Thompson and Chris Scott. I wanted more than a year with Scotty, but I cherished that year that we did get together. It's exactly what I needed and wanted now that I reflect back. Bomber was amazing, and Bomber was this certain type of coach who brought me along from an 18-year-old kid. His first year at the club was my first year at the club. I was shit scared of Bomber, though. Yeah. It's fair to say. He still just had that. I was a kid and he was Bomber, but he developed us unbelievably. To then get an experience of Scotty, where we worked together really well, and we could have hard conversations. We could have just fun, general conversations. We could talk about ideas. We could, for the first time, it felt like it was two colleagues trying to work towards a common goal. And he was senior coach and I was captain, but it wasn't that. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's a different dynamic of a relationship a player could have. And the way that we worked together in that year and brought others along for the journey, I still refer back to in some of the other stuff that I do throughout the rest of my time. So to have that year with Scotty was unbelievable for me. To then have, fast forward, I'm just a fan now and a supporter. It takes my kids along to watch. To know that the team I love and have cherished since I was 5 years of age is being led by a person like Chris Scott, that is extra special. So I'm sorry I keep embarrassing you. But
that was an excellent first serve. Now he's going to return.
Yeah, well, I thought Lingy described it really well. I regarded myself when I came in as a 34-year-old really as a peer for the senior players and someone that could come in, and it wasn't finishing school necessarily because there was still some work to be done. But what there was this real appetite, one, not to give up, which is sort of was the most important ingredient I felt at the end of 2010 because... And I think a lot of people rewrite history when they think about that era, and it was kind of like there's this great team and it was just going to roll along, and that's not the way that the footy world was looking at it in terms of the way I saw it anyway, what I was sort of seeing and hearing. So it's very difficult to engineer that hunger as a new coach. It sort of needed to be there already, and really quickly that was established from the senior players and with Lingy's leadership in particular. So I was given the opportunity to kind of work with them. Mm. Again, I think Lingy described it exactly the way that I felt it, that I was coming in to work with them and kind of harness the good stuff that had already been done in the previous decade. And that sort of shaped sort of the coach that I've been over the last decade or so, because we have had significant transition and young players have come in, but I've always felt my role is to work with the senior players in particular in partnership. And then lead together the younger players, as opposed to that kind of we're the teacher, we're the boss, you're the student, you're the employee type relationship.
I'm interested, you speak about those players initially, so Lingy, you had Travis and Harry as well, and you've been able to coach some greats of the game along the way. What qualities in a player do you gravitate towards most, do you find? Whether it's a skill or a quality as a person or an attitude, what do you love in a footy player?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think about this when I think about leadership. And Lingy personified this ideal. And I think sometimes leadership is very dependent on the sport. So if you consider an AFL club captain in comparison to the Australian cricket captain. It's a very different role, although I think that cricket captain is evolving, that position. It's more a partnership now with the coaching staff, where I think the AFL dynamic has always been, at the very least, it's been a partnership. If not, the coach runs the show and the captain kind of delivers those messages. So I've always admired the players that lead by example on the field, and it's easy when things are going well. But I didn't know Tom Harley very well, but I imagine that he was the same as Lingy and Joel Selwood and now Pat. When the chips are down and you need something to happen on the field, they're the ones that I value the most, the ones that can prevail when the team needs them. And more than ever, the role of the captain is one of sort of representing the club publicly. I think that's probably half the role at least. But I think it's less about what you say and even less about what you do kind of during the week, because that example should be spread amongst a whole lot of players. It's the ones that can deliver in the big moments that and the ones that relish that moment, because not everyone does. Some people get intimidated by those moments on field. So even for us in recent times, like I admire the guys that are leaning into the fact that, okay, we've lost 4 in a row here and something needs to be done, and I'm going to be the one to lead it.
Is there, and this touches a little bit on what's happening right now, but is there even more excitement when you see that coming from a younger player as well? One that maybe for the first time you're going, oh, hang on, I knew that kid had some talent. I knew he'd worked hard on his game, and yeah, he probably had a future, but right now he's gone, teeth are gritted. I'm going to stand up in this moment. Is that a pretty cool feeling when you're a coach of that?
Yeah, they're probably my favourites, and that's what we try to build our program to embrace those moments. Now, you don't try to engineer situations where you've lost a few and then you're a few goals down. You try to avoid those situations as much as possible. But in some ways, we're trying to encourage our guys to really get excited by those moments as opposed to being intimidated by them. And it's very difficult to recreate in training. So when you have that rare situation in a game, it was always nice when Joel Selwood stood up or Tom Hawkins stood up, but it's even nicer when your second or third year players are the ones to lead it. That sort of speaks to, the potential of the future. And as much as anything, the attitude of those guys. Because again, when you're early in your career, I think virtually everyone except the superstars, those very rare players that come in and dominate the competition right from the start. Most players are 2, 3, 4 years before they get past that sort of sense of, look, I'm just trying to get a game and sort of play my role. And as much as we can encourage them, you're more than a role player, it can be a bit better than that. It's still intimidating for most.
One of the questions we get asked most frequently on the podcast when we ask for fan submissions is, surely X player is the most underrated player on the list, or X player is the most improved. Without giving away too many trade secrets, you sort of hinted at a few there. Who in the coach's eyes broadly, whose work goes under the radar a little bit, or whose value is perhaps not as widely recognised?
It's a tough question for me to answer because I haven't got a great sense
of what's happening publicly.
and of who's rated and who's not. A
quiet achiever then.
Yeah. Ollie Dempsey's one for us, I think, this year. And he had a really good game on the weekend, so it's probably not great timing to talk about him being underrated. But I think through the preseason, he really prepared himself to give himself every chance. But I think we were still thinking, look, if we've got full availability, it's going to be tough to squeeze him in. And he's one of the few younger players that we haven't managed out of a game all year because he's just been so solid. He's looked like, he's handling the workload well, and we've pushed him up into the midfield a little bit more. I'm really optimistic that he could be sort of one of those players that can play anywhere, and it's been tempting at times to play him more forward of the ball, and I think we, especially after the weekend, that's likely that we'll do that. But he is one of a group of players. I think that it's a little bit of a blessing not having Dangerfield and Guthrie in there. But yeah, I think when they come back, we won't be pushing Ollie out.
No, I think there's a few people very, very excited about the way Ollie's going at the moment. Can I ask you about, so I've always admired the fact that you seem to me from afar as a lifelong learner, constantly trying to improve yourself, constantly your knowledge of the game, understanding of players, but also some of the work you do in the off-season. You've headed overseas and done learning. So a real commitment to your craft as a coach, but also I think to continue to always learn as a person. How do you balance though when a player comes in and is almost the complete opposite to you in many different ways? Might be personality, might be the way we went about footy, the way we go about learning, all that sort of thing. How do you go, okay, so this is me, this is what I love doing, and this is how I get better as a person, as a coach. This player goes about it in a completely different way. How do you balance those two off?
Well, I love it because I think that's more the way I would describe my philosophy, and that is that I think less about there being the correct or the best way of doing things. And I think more in terms of there being multiple ways to go about achieving an outcome. And even more than that, kind of embracing the idea that what we know to be the best for us today will 100% be different in 5 years' time. The challenge is trying to work out how it'll be different. And I think the role of a coach in the modern era is more around facilitating and empowering your best performers. And so if that's the case, you shouldn't dictate too much to those guys. They know, and I think it's true of us today, even our younger players, that they know individually what makes them really good players and what their strengths are, even better than we do. So it's up to us to try to magnify that. And that's like even more broadly when you think about the culture of the place, which I think has been talked about quite rightly at the Cats for a long, long period of time, well before I got here. But I think of it much more in terms of it being a product of the people, which means by definition it will be different when you get different people in. Yeah. So we're trying to kind of retain the parts that have been consistent for us over a long period of time, but also embrace the change. So I hear sometimes that teams play kind of in a manner that reflects the way their coach played, and I'd be really disappointed if that was what we were trying to create at the Cats, and that goes for our assistant coaches as well. We're trying to maximise the players we've got and accentuate that, and think less about how the game should be played or what worked for us back in the day. Because I think the way the game was played 5 years ago was completely irrelevant. So the way it was played 20 years ago certainly is.
Lingy spoke then a little bit about your own personal development, and I hope this is okay to go public with, because I'd like to ask you about your own high performance behaviours and how important it is for you to be in the best space that you can be to then lead the group. And when I speak about going public with something, I mean the fact that we see each other in the altitude room at times. I do love a little session. I know the altitude will be over 4,000 when I see Scotty in there. But is that stuff important to you? Is keeping yourself sort of as high performance as you can be important to your leadership role?
Well, it's just become critical for me from a mental perspective more than anything. And I think of exercise now in terms of a way to clear my mind, and I'm getting more and more introverted as I get older, and I used to think of that in a slightly negative sense, and it wasn't until I actually did a course overseas, one of the ones that you referenced, Lingy, and it was really interesting for me because it kind of challenged this notion that the great leaders are bombastic, charismatic, leaders of men, and more proposed this theory that the great leaders tend to be introverts because it can be a lonely existence, and those that thrive, in those moments by themselves are generally the ones that have a bit more longevity, and that kind of resonated with me because I still like people, but I need time to myself as well, and so exercise sort of ticks both of those boxes where I can get some time for reflection by myself, but also sort of clears my head a bit. And I think of exercise more in terms of the performance element has just disappeared completely for me. I just don't care about that at all. It's more about feeling good and sort of being. I think this sounds a bit pessimistic, but I think over the long term, on average, it's impossible for head coaches to be thriving mentally and physically consistently.
Yes.
And so if you accept that, then you've got to nail one. Because if you've got both going downhill, then it's just going to be too hard.
Sometimes I don't know how you can thrive mentally at all as a senior coach, or any senior coach, but somehow you do it incredibly well. You've been very generous with your time. I'll let you go in a second. Can I ask one specific to this season, just for our listeners, as we head into obviously playing the Swans, a very good team, and then the bye week, but the challenges of this chunk of the season, 4 losses in a row and a bounce back win on the weekend. I think you spoke publicly about making sure that as a group you don't overreact to a run of losses. Easier said than done, though. So the churning turmoil inside is, actually, are we still good? Are we still making the right decisions? How don't we? Just can you talk through, perhaps for the people listening, just that wrestle between, no, we stay calm, stay strong through this. It's not quite working, but it will, versus some of the outside noise and the outside turmoil that must be swirling around yourself, the group, everything, and making sure that doesn't affect your decision-making?
Yeah, I think internally we strive really hard to think about the things that we think are important. And that sounds obvious, but it's easier for me, to be honest, at my age and what I do, to not get too involved in the way others think about it. I suspect it's much harder for a guy in his early 20s. It's easy for me to say that I'm not really, I don't play a part in the social media world at all, but it's almost impossible for them unless they want to be a social pariah, not to be. So our challenge is to have real clarity on the way we're thinking about how we're going, and not necessarily ignore or get defensive or argue against what other people are saying, but just try to work out with some clarity what's real and what's not. And sometimes that means being a bit harder on ourselves, especially after a win. We've had games regularly where we've won, but we just didn't think the performance was as good as it should have been. And other times you lose by a kick and think, look, a few things went against us, but it wasn't as bad a performance as it feels. And that's probably the hardest part for me, because if we win, I feel pretty good, but not much better than that, a sense of relief generally. But when we lose, the feeling that I've got to fight is that this is the end of the world. It's completely asymmetric, the wins and losses these days. So again, if you acknowledge that, then the challenge is to come in and try to make it as even as possible in our assessment. So we won on the weekend. So when we review it with our players, the tendency will be towards the positive. So we've got to counteract that a little bit because that's not logical. And when we lose, there's so many RFIs that don't make any sense either. So I think everyone talks about it these days, I suspect, but we prioritise as much as anything the sense that if someone came into the footy department on a Monday, they shouldn't be able to tell whether we won or we lost. And we don't always achieve it. And sometimes you've got to live the lie a little bit. I'm at the head of that queue. But that sort of sums up professional sport a little bit, doesn't it? You kind of got to get on with the job and not allow your emotions to affect you, too much either way.
Last one from me before Lingy wraps us up, if that's all right.
Absolutely, Meg.
You speak about, with that more sort of optimistic view, and I know that's been such a hallmark of your leadership, that we've got no doubt that our greatest football, our best football is still ahead of us. How much does that change week to week or month to month or as the season progresses? That state that you're striving towards, surely that looks different in round 13 as it did in round 2. How much does it change, or how constant is that end goal?
Hopefully the aim to improve doesn't change at all. Again, I came to the conclusion a long time ago, and it's not rocket science, but you'll never play the perfect game of football. So there's always a way to get better. I think the stakes change across the season, and it's one of the reasons a good start tends to be important, because it's not momentum necessarily in terms of the wins building up. It's more positive momentum and affirmation for what it is you're trying to do. And I think the reverse is even more powerful than the negative momentum that comes from a few losses, almost sort of raising questions that aren't really relevant, but you can't ignore them completely because you're losing for some reason. And I think when confusion sets in for the players, that's the most challenging coaching moment. And that's what we've tried to do over the last month, just really simplify and clarify what it is we've been trying to do, while also acknowledging that every team, I imagine without exception, the Swans are going pretty well at the moment, but there'll be ups and downs, and it's a matter of sort of riding out those tough times and maximising the good times. So if we can get ourselves in a position 3/4 of the way through the season where we're playing better footy, I think everyone's trying to get to the point where it's just like, well, if we play our best, we won't lose again. And I think we're a fair way away from that. But the good news is, we, as you said, like our best footy's in front of us, and we can see, we can see the potential to play some pretty high level footy that's going to challenge most teams.
It does feel like that sort of season, doesn't it, where there's going to be those little lulls for every team. It's such an even competition, bar maybe one or two down towards the bottom end of the ladder. Really appreciate your time. Again, congratulations. June 22nd, for any of our listeners, tickets still available for the Hall of Fame. Harry Taylor, Travis Varkos, two wonderful footballers for the Cats, are also going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. There's going to be some life members as well. Be a terrific night. I'm really looking forward to it. But thank you so much for joining us, Scotty, and good luck for this week against the Swans.
Thanks, Lingy. I know they call it the Hall of Fame dinner, but it's really about acknowledging the legend.
No.
So everyone should come along. You know, it's rare that the club inducts a legend. There's one being inducted this year, the 2011 Premiership coach, Cameron Ling. Get amongst it.
Thank you, Scotty. Sorry, you're embarrassing me now.
Hi Cats fans, it's Tom Hawkins here. Tickets are now on sale for the Geelong Cats Hall of Fame dinner. Join the club for an evening of celebration as Cameron Ling etches his name in history as the newest club legend. The evening will also see the newest Hall of Fame inductees and life members recognised. Head to Geelong Cats website to check out the events page to book your tickets.
Welcome back. It's great to have you with us on to the final bell. Let's get to some questions,
Let's
Meg.
do it.
All right, we've got a couple coming in. This one here. Now, we may have touched on this a little bit in the first segment, but I'll ask it anyway, just again. Do you think the team will be going to the game against Sydney with a bit of confidence?
Yeah, I'm just at one with the fans with all my questions. Yes, I think so. Confidence and optimism. I think we're going to be focusing, as Scotty said, on continual improvement, and we're thinking that the momentum's going the right way. And as you so rightly said, it's a big challenge, and why not? You know, you believe your best is good enough. It has been good enough against the Swans. They're obviously top of the ladder, they're in unbelievable form, but there will be ebbs and flows in everyone's game, and hopefully this is a flow for us and an ebb for them.
It's always one of the unknowns with the bye the following week is everybody so excited about the bye? They play with like this real enthusiasm and just extra spark, and I don't know what it is. It's almost an intangible you can't measure. Or
Are you fresh off the bye?
Fresh off the bye of the Swans, but I'm thinking even just you've already planned your holiday, and you're like, I just want to go on holidays, and you're that sore, you're that tired. I don't think
8 and 5 still good.
I don't think the Cats are at that, but it is funny how I'm casting my mind back to my playing days with a bye around the corner. How desperate you were for the bye to arrive, so sore, and just the colder weather's kicked in by then. Sydney's an interesting one. Given how well they're going and how healthy they are, they've had 2 byes now by round 12 or 13, whatever we're up to.
They're young. They don't even need it.
No. That's a question, a bigger conversation for fairness in the fixture. We'll see what they do with opening round next year. Next question.
You can't play W, Lingy. No byes.
Just play.
Just play. Don't play everyone, but that's all right.
Play 3 games in 2 weeks.
Yeah, all good. No, it's 4, and we are all
4
good with
games
that.
in 2 weeks.
It's 4 games in 2 weeks.
Wow.
We go. How you go? The fixture is Thursday, Tuesday. So it's play on the weekend. Play Thursday, Tuesday, Sunday.
That's going
Put
back.
them in.
That's going back to the old when you used to play footy carnival.
Yeah.
You used to go away
I've
for
never
the
done that,
old,
but yeah.
it's not called the Teal Cup, but it was the Vic Country Carnival,
Yeah.
and you play like the 4 games in a week, and wonder why a few people got a little bit sore out of it.
Oh my goodness.
Fun times. That's back. when I
Cats
was-
fans will be ready, don't you worry.
Yeah. What's everyone's favourite goal? That's all the question is, Meg. Just favourite
What's
goal in
everyone's
general
favourite
ever.
goal? To become a person who makes their bed every morning when I get up.
Oh, that sort of goal.
No, I don't know.
Okay, I like
my
that.
favourite goal.
I fail miserably at that goal, by the way. I do. Can I defend myself quickly there?
Yeah, go,
I do,
please.
I do get out of bed at earlier than my wife, and she's still sound asleep, does not budge by the time I've left the house. So any unmade bed, I blame her on.
Yeah. Shout out Nicole.
Yeah.
Um,
My
no,
favourite
favourite
goal of
goal.
all time is
Go on.
with the fact we've just been talking to Scotty and we mentioned one player and he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, Travis Varco, the Trav Varco 2011. Not the first, not the second. No, he's won right at the end of the game. The goal in the last quarter is a goal that is truly a thing of beauty. From start down in the deep goal square, defensive goal square, to the end. Oh, that is top shelf.
I'm just going to leave it on that one. The next one.
The next one.
First
Like
one
it.
of 2024. I'm ready for it.
All right, next question. Why is Cameron, as in Jeremy, playing majority of game on a wing when he's the best forward? How do you see the balance of at the moment of where he's playing? He did hunt up the ground a little bit at times when the game wasn't quite working, I think, to get involved.
When it's good, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's too simple a response.
He's
but
an elite field kick and so damaging, and he'll kick or handball and then go again, which I think opens up the game either for him or he creates such a force, a vacuum that opposition players will follow his movement and then others can go through the space that's created with that. So I like it. I love it when he gets up the ground a bit.
I also think he's the best mobile forward and, finisher and kicker and all that sort of stuff. But if the game, when the pressure's hot and we're not getting that run off halfback ball movement that we love, I don't know that Jeremy's best use is standing in a pack, 30 out and having people jump into each other. I'm not saying he can't do it, but get him up there, get him involved with his, merry band of small forwards around him and chain it through.
And especially with the balance, I think at the moment the forward line is Jeremy, Shannon Neal and Tom Hawkins, is him up the ground allows an isolation of Shannon and Tom.
Yeah.
If he's too deep and it's with those three, well then are they running into each other's way? Does it work with three? That's the question that starts rising. I think of the two best up the ground, mobile forwards, elite kicks as well as elite goal kickers as Cameron and
Buddy?
currently playing.
Oh, currently playing.
Charlie Curnow. So,
Oh, yeah.
so those two players' ability to use their athleticism up the ground, impact, but also still arrive in a dangerous spot deep. I think when you've got that weapon, use it when you can.
Absolutely. And rest assured, the coaches are going for a net positive. Like, we want to...
Hopefully we've answered that one. Next one. No question.
I love just a statement. Send them in.
Oh, yeah, okay. There's no grammar in this one. There's no comma side. No question here. Been hoping for big Scratch and Neil, to show his potential, which I think he did on Saturday. I'll ask the question, Meg.
Yep.
Your thoughts? How's Shannon going?
I think he's going... Producer Jake's loving it.
Can you include some punctuation next time, Jackie, please?
He's going well. My goodness. The guy's still really young. And there are moments I think you watch him and you think, in a couple of years' time, his strength will have developed to a point where he's clunking all of those ones that he's making a contest out of. I loved when he finished his goal, and I think people were a bit taken aback by how elaborate his celebration. Not elaborate, but the extent of his celebration. But that's a guy who's feeling that he is getting it done on the biggest stage. It's somewhat of a release of tension, and it's pride in his own performance. And you could see it just come out of him, and everyone's responding to it.
It's also his personality, from what I understand. All my interactions with him, I met him a couple of years ago as part of being allowed to sit in on an academy meeting and be part of that. We met. Every time he sees me, he's the one coming over. Hey, Lee, how you going?
he's-
Great
yeah.
to see. Just a beautiful, big
Exuberant.
personality.
Yeah.
I'm going, well, don't be something different out on the field.
No.
Be yourself, and I love it. And I see this need for a patient trajectory with him. Yes, he has 2 all-time greats. I'm talking all-time greats in Hawkins and Cameron in that forward line. He's trying to fit into that, not get in their way. At times, I think he almost tries to not get in their way too much. I wouldn't mind going, no, that's your ball, Shannon.
Yeah.
You can mark that one. And then he's learning, his physical strength and size is growing, his understanding of the game, getting games under his belt, all for a time where it's going to become
He's
his
number one.
forward
Yeah.
line with
And I think
others.
he, if you look at, say, the way Ollie Henry's developed this year and come on, he was doing a lot of that, I think, last year, the kind of, where do I fit? I'm trying not to get in those guys' way. When's it my turn to go? So that, as you say, that stuff really takes time. And on the point of his personality, I think we're a markedly different team to this. But I always note when Carlton kick a goal, how elaborate they are with their celebrations, but almost how it is part of Charlie Curno's role to get the boys up and about, and how the team responds to players celebrating. Now, as you say, you're not doing it consciously or being really strategic about it, but if it's coming out of you, go with it and vibe with it. And Ollie Dempsey did a few of the same.
Yeah.
He was pumped.
And if it's natural, because you've probably met Charlie Curnow as well, but Charlie is like Shannon now. He's just a big, beautiful, fun, exuberant guy. So when he's celebrating like that, his teammates just know he's being genuine. And he's pumped and he wants to pump others up. So it becomes really contagious amongst the group. Yeah, come on, let's do this. So no, I no issues with the celebration. I love it. I love that's him being himself. And I'm seeing the real progression of him tasting the ruck as well, which is a completely different craft form. His running patterns when he's in the ruck versus when he's going forward. We're talking about him now building a foundation for the years to come.
Yeah, and his ball use that's not, in front of goal as well. There are a couple of really nice deliveries. So, yes, I think it's, to speak to the question, shown his potential. He's a long way off reaching it, but he's shown it for sure.
Absolutely. We've got to head off soon. We've got to finish this one up. I know it's been a little bit of a longer one, but I hope you don't mind that because we've had a great chat with Chris Scott, the coach. Before we do, though, a couple of results, of course, over the weekend. The VFL continue on their merry way, Meg, which is very, very nice. A win over Richmond, 17 points. I see Ted Closey, another terrific game, 3 goals. Best on ground. Brandon Parfitt also putting his hand up for selection potentially. They take on the Swans, Sydney at the SCG. I would assume that's a curtain raiser then.
It is, yeah.
11:35. Anyone who is heading up to Sydney to watch the Cats play, go and head there early on Sunday. 11:35 that game is. And the VFLW, unfortunately, Meg.
It's
again,
tough times at the moment.
Yeah. And are we still... Because official preseason only started yesterday, is this still a fact that the Cats lost by 71 points to the Bulldogs of a lot of AFLW?
Admittedly, I don't know how many AFLW played in the Bulldogs team. I think we had one in ours. I think it's just it's hard to build that consistency as a team when you have had those that are in and out, but that's true of all teams. So I can't confidently speak to what happened against the Bulldogs, but hopefully there's some consistency to be found for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, let's hope. The next game is against the Hawks, Box Hill City Oval, this on Sunday as well, 11:30 a.m. So if you aren't heading to Sydney and you want to catch some footy, head along to Box Hill City Oval and cheer the VFLW Cats on there. Meg, let's finish up. We'll be back again next week to talk about...
Yes.
The Cats and the Swans, 3:20 on Sunday afternoon, and all things going on in Geelong before we head into a bye. We won't have a bye, will we?
No, we'll stay on.
We'll stay strong. We might do, maybe after with the bye week, we might, the following week, might do a little mid-season recap.
Okay,
maybe a top 5 best and fairest to the bye week, that sort of
The
thing.
fans love the best and fairest predictions.
Yeah. See how wrong we are come the end of the season. Actually, I reckon we could be fairly strong in Max Holmes going okay to this point of the year. Love that. Right. Great to see you again, Meg. Good luck for the first week of pre-season.
Thank you.
Ball work, did you say later today? Is that into
some footy?
Some footy.
Straight into some footy.
Great stuff. Enjoy that. Great to see you, Meg. Thank you to everyone for listening. We'll be back next week.